Hi, everybody. My name is Riccardo Sai. I'm a creative producer, director, and photographer. I'm here today for my latest espresso with Ilana Adamson, who is the founder of Be Better. So Ilana, welcome to my espresso. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Riccardo. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do, Ilana?
I'm founder of Be Better, and we are chief sustainability officers. So we come in and work as filling that role of understanding across the supply chain and across the whole business sustainability and how to become more sustainable.
Great. Okay, so the theme of the day is how can brands be more sustainable? So, I mean, first of all, I wanted to ask you something about sustainability. So, how can you define a brand as a sustainable? First of all.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you take the word sustainable, is anything really sustainable if you're drawing down from natural capital? But when we talk about and there's a lot of misnomers around this, actually, even with those in the space, but sustainable is used as a phrase, and you often hear organizations saying that we should say regenerative, or I don't like sustainable, it's been overused, but most of the time that's because they don't really understand sustainable development. And sustainable development is the UN SDG. So I studied this prior to the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals are 17 goals that set out leaving no one behind, really, in fairness in the natural capital and economic capital that we have globally. And this has been signed up by, I think, 193 countries globally. And we have a decade to do that. So that's up until 2030 to rebalance that. And that's things like access to water, and it's things like inclusivity and fairness within supply chains, and all of these sorts of things are brought into play with the SDGs. So when we look at that, it's not just about carbon footprint, and it's not just about decisions that we make locally. It's about the decisions that we make that have negative impacts on the rest of the world. So that could be in your supply chain, for instance, when you're looking at child labour or enforced labour or garment factory workers that are being treated unfairly. It can be any of those things, and it can also be having forever chemicals within the product that you're producing that is then emitting those chemicals into the land somewhere or into the waterway somewhere, and causing damage that will be very difficult to mitigate over the next decades or so, that then have negative impacts on our health and mammal health and water health and invertebrate health and so on, and all for the purpose of consumption.
It's
so in order to be, did you ask me how to be sustainable?
Yeah. How
so
a brand?
Yeah, to be sustainable, just in short, if you wanted a short answer to that rather than the long-winded, to be sustainable, it's not about making one sustainable choice. So we often see brands making a choice for an organic fabric, for instance, and that's a great, more sustainable choice than not. And you might choose to have less water in your processing of fabrics, for instance, or no plastic, in single-use plastic. And all of these are great choices, but that doesn't make your brand sustainable. It means that you've made some sustainable choices. In order to be sustainable, it makes you accountable, not cherry picking those things that your consumers want, but actually being accountable for your decisions in a framework for sustainability. That you set goals on how you're going to improve, and you achieve those goals, and you become accountable to your stakeholders, so your shareholder and your consumers, for these goals that you set for yourself that are not just financial, but sit alongside your financial reporting.
Yeah, so that's actually leading to my next question, which is related to that, which is about greenwashing. So what is greenwashing? We often talk about that, or we hear about that. So can you clarify a bit more?
Yeah, there's been a lot of greenwashing, unfortunately, and more often than not, in my opinion, brands tiptoe into greenwashing. Greenwashing is the concept of exaggerating your claims to the environment in order to drive revenue. So that doesn't mean that for instance, you can be an organic company and still be greenwashing. For instance, you can be B Corp and still be greenwashing. It's really the exaggeration, and a lot of that is in marketing speak. So it's the way, for instance, to choose an organic t-shirt and to claim that that's better for the planet. We need to back that up with data. We need to make sure that actually in the UK, choosing a t-shirt, I'm just going to use distance for instance, choosing a t-shirt that's produced in Indonesia and then flown here, although the material at source is organic and it's better produced there than non-organic, is flying a t-shirt from Indonesia better than having a t-shirt produced with local yarn, for instance? So when we're making these big comparative, and that's not the only way, there's lots of 6 different guidance on that's now been released from the Competitions and Markets Authority in the UK on how not to greenwash, or the green claims codes. And that really lays out that you can't omit any information. So, you know, if you're doing something well here but not here, you can't just ignore that and pretend that that's okay. You have to clarify everything, you have to substantiate, so you have to evidence whatever your claims are, and very often that needs a life cycle assessment. So it's much more complex than this is your product, and if you're wanting to go after a sustainable audience, you need to be credible in how you do that.
Yeah. You just mentioned marketing as well, so I wanted to ask you more about that. Also, the importance they have, like marketing, design, branding, advertising campaigns, and contents as well, like social media contents, in terms of raising awareness about sustainability, but also communicating the fact that that particular brand is sustainable. I mean, how important is that? How relevant is that, you think?
I think increasingly what we're going to see, and this is an assumption on my part, but I'm not alone in this thought, I think we'll see marketing budgets shifting towards sustainability. And when I say that, traditionally, marketeers write the stories that make the brands aspirational. But actually what we need brands to do now is to do the work in the sustainability to make the brands aspirational, and then the marketers to talk about that. So these things, sustainability doesn't just sit in a marketing department, but it affects massively the marketing output. But and so the money needs to be redirected for that. But instead of creating stories, we need to do the stories and then talk about it. And yes, to use your platform for sustainability is, I personally think, is an obligation of all of us. The larger your platform, the bigger your responsibility, because this is on all of us to bring about this change over the next decade, and starting the conversation is the single most important thing you can do. And even if that's to say, I don't understand this, please tell us what you think. And as a brand, I would say, we don't understand what's important to you, tell us.
Yeah.
Be honest. What sustainability calls for most often is transparency, and that's something that is a bit of a journey for brands to come into that space, but that's what sustainability calls for. And so finding ways to engage with your stakeholders on that is vitally important. And if you are doing something that's good for the environment, and everyone should be, then just be honest about that. Saying that you're saving the planet is probably greenwashing, but saying this is something you're doing and you're proud of probably isn't.
Wow, that's been very interesting. There's a lot of work to do still, isn't it? And when it comes to sustainability, but yeah, thank you for clarifying more about that, and also encouraging myself, and because you can be sustainable also on a smaller level, on an individual levels. We're talking about branding as well, big brands, but not necessarily big brands need to be sustainable, but also at a grassroots level we can be sustainable as well. So yeah, so that's quite empowering. So thank you, Ilana. So how can people find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, probably our website is the easiest, www.bebetter.at. So www.bebetter.at.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And see you for the next espresso. Bye, everybody.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.